Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast. This week, the show's going to be in two little parts. First part talking about night terrors, second part talking about Torchwood episode 8. Now at the end of this week, in a few days' time, the last episode of Torchwood, that's episode 10, is going to be on in America. Episode 9 will be on Thursday. So, on Friday, just as episode 10 is broadcast, that's Friday America time, Saturday morning about 4 AM here, there'll be a quick review released of episode 9 and 10 combined, because I made the mistake of watching them back to back and my reviews kind of morphed into one. And to be honest, the episodes are kind of, well, one storyline really. I don't really think they deserve a review of two. You can probably read into that what it's going to be like. I also have a pet theory, but I can't tell you what that is now because you won't have seen episodes 9 and 10. So if I'm just quiet about that, and if you see a 30-second podcast pop up on your feed at some point, that will be my mental theory. Anyway, what we're here to talk about right now is night terrors.
I'm worried about him. Why is he terrified all the time?
He needs help.
He's got us.
He needs a doctor.
Please save me from the monsters. Please save me from the monsters. Please save me from the monsters.
Please save me from the monsters. Haven't done this in a while.
Done what? What are you doing?
Making a house call.
Yes, the second story in a row where people are shrunk. Now I know last time that they were shrunk to be inside a machine, and here they're shrunk to be inside a doll's house. Yeah, you see, when you were first watching it, oh, rather you, I say me, watching it, it does have the feel, alright, some parallels with Fear Her. And Fear Her is, you know, the one-sided as the episode people don't like to talk about, apart from, yes, and I don't want to talk about it, Love and Monsters. The reasons for Love and Monsters are totally different. Fear Her had very little money left to spend on it. They'd spend all their money on the battles of Canary Wharf. No, Fear Her is about a child and an imaginary friend and a fear that's coming after them, and it's set in suburbia, and yes, on paper it's got some good similarities. This is Fear Her with money spent. Except it's not. The problem with Fear Her is, apart from people disappearing into pictures and people disappear here into a doll's house, yeah, I get that. Fear Her was more about escaping abuse. Here, the motivation of the character doing the deeds is different. Now, admittedly, the thing I found most disappointing about Fear Her, the revelation of who was behind it all, is just as disappointing, because you don't get to see the aliens in their natural environment. And the point that I need to make at the end, but if I make it at the end I'll forget, I better make now. The reason the kid who sends out the psychic wave of information asking for help has to be an alien is because, well, think about it. How many children out there watching Doctor Who are actually frightened of the monsters in the dark? Are actually frightened of something, sadly, in their life? Perhaps they're being bullied, perhaps they just need help. And every night they send out positive thoughts, needing the doctor to come to their aid. I know there's going to be a lot of adults out there thinking, you know, when I was a kid, that's exactly what I did. I needed help, and I needed the doctor to help me. And the doctor never came. Perhaps the doctor never turning up is part of growing up. Not a really good bit of growing up, if you ask me. So that's why the kid had to turn out to be an alien, so that when the doctor doesn't turn up, kids don't blame themselves for not thinking loud enough. Or perhaps I'm reading far, far too much into it. Of course, the whole thing about putting things in a closet as you're frightened of them, well, we can always get back to that one at a later date and discuss that in much more depth. Anything else? Well, there's the whole references to time bandits because of the kids' floor and things coming out the wardrobe, but again, that's just distraction. Doesn't really lead us on anywhere. Right. I like Mark Gatiss. I like his work. I like The League of Gentlemen. I like his early Doctor Who stuff. I did not like Victory of the Daleks. I actually didn't think The Idiot's Lantern was a particularly bad story. Not at all. I actually liked it. Right? I do really, really, really like the Ninth Doctor story he did. Yes, his Big Finish stuff could be a little bit hit and miss from time to time. Invasions of Mars, Invaders from Mars, not great. But he did have some definite things that he had to get done with that story. Things that came across as anachronisms were actually important to the plot. Perhaps for many people, this story just felt a bit too much like Sapphire and Steel. That's never, ever a bad thing. Now, I'm not sure that I am being true to my real self here, because I've got a problem. The problem is, I've spent a long time going, I'm a bit sick of, well, huge story arcs. I want some more standalone stories. And yet every time there is a standalone story, I kick off and go, I need more arc. I'm just never satisfied, and that's rubbish. Perhaps it's because everyone out there thinks that the standalone stories from this series are, well, weak. Perhaps it's because we felt shortchanged by the end of the River Song stories, if that's indeed what it was. Given the name of episode 13, I'm not completely convinced that that's the case. So tell me to shut up, because I don't know what I'm asking for. Do I want more standalone? I've heard rumours that most of the next series is going to be standalone stories, mainly to stop other people's heads exploding, possibly because people are turning up with scripts for Moffat going, what about this? And they all fit together to make a very nice standalone, no overriding arc, no bad wolf hanging in the wings stories. Just like the good old days. Now I'm sure on some forums people may have asked, what's this? A little boy with a doll's house and a wardrobe. This is a bit silly. Pretending and having dolls. Come on, Star Wars figures. They're dolls. Oh yeah, sorry, call them action figures. When it comes to children, a doll's house is not gender specific. And anyone who thinks like that, really, no, it's just not on. I'm sorry. The fact that he's put the doll's house in the wardrobe either means he was frightened of it, or he was, well, given it and he just shoved it in there because he was scared of dolls. Let's face it, a lot of people are. The transformation sequences actually were quite good. You could see where the money was spent, but shoving them in the doll's house, Amy and Rory, were they wasted in this storyline? I know you've only got 45 minutes to tell the tale, but really, not brilliant. So yes, it's interchangeable with the Pirates as a standalone story. There's no real mention of the fact that they've just left their daughter somewhere to get better and none gone back and visited her. You have a time machine, you could go back whenever you want. Do you not want to? Is there something you need to tell us, Amy? And yes, there's a character called Purcell in this. Part of me would like to believe that a certain Tom had a word with a certain Gary and said, you know this name of this character, could you just change it to someone who's getting on my nerves? No, that's not going to happen. No one would be that petty. Course not. I can see a lot of cross-podcast banter going on with anyone called Purcell, but let's just leave it there. You'll hear a lot of podcasts over the next few days as I try and catch up. I will at some point have my 2 interviews from the Hooverville convention available to upload on some threads. I'm sure they'll appear throughout the system as everyone tries to bring out their own recordings, and that's a good thing. All thanks to the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance and the wonderful time we had at Hooverville. So yes, to sum up, it wasn't a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. It was well made, well structured. I did expect more of a payoff at the end, but how much of a payoff can we add? And yes, there were echoes of stuff like Paradise Towers, which could explain why the DVD was released so close to this date. Does that mean in a few weeks' time the denouement for this series is going to have time-travelling dinosaurs and a new golden age? Perhaps not. So with that, I'll fade away and let you listen to my review of episode 8 of Torchwood. So for now, be seeing you. Hello. Well, thanks to those lovely people at the BBC, I've now got in my possession the last 3 episodes of Torchwood. That's episodes 8, 9 and 10. Now, rather than spoil it for everyone and mess with everyone's heads and also spoil it for myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record individual, small, sort of gut reaction podcasts. So, episode 8 being, as it goes 8, 9, 10, yeah, that one I've just seen it, and it's not bad at all. It is, well, let's face it, they can't finish the stories off, so what they've had to do is create the whole Alfonso Bonzo or Angelus or whatever the guy's actually called storyline. Yes, we're back to morphic fields, so if you're playing the Torchwood Institute drinking game, you can have a quick swig on that one. And of course, we end up with Jack being shot after he's got a piece of the morphic field in his pocket, which probably means he's back to being immortal, which means we've really got nothing to worry about. And of course, he has to make it at least to the end of episode 10, which is in 2 episodes' time. But I'm, of course, ahead of myself. As always, and I'm sick of saying this, not a lot happens. Oh yeah. No, really, seriously, not a lot happens. Basically, they arrive at the place where they said they'd go at the end of the last episode, and at the end of the episode, they leave the place where they said it. Alright, Gwen gets deported back to the UK. That's fair enough. To be honest, I don't know. Oh, yes, and of course, Q turns up, and you've got a lovely little speech made by Nana Vista, which is, great, you know. She's just about to reveal what's going on and reveal all the families, and when the fake CIA arrive with the guy from Seinfeld, and then he gets done by the little I5s and how they work, and they can just be made to make up new things whichever just fit the plot, and that's annoying. And of course he tries to kill himself. Well, he manages it, you know what I mean, he makes himself category 1. Oh, and more about category 0 in a moment. But category 1, yes, he gets to top himself and be remembered for this and nothing else, because basically that's what he's done for this storyline. A lot of people have given up on Torchwood by now, and I know I probably would be one of them. But no, for you, dear listener, I will keep going. I do intend producing a cut-down version of Torchwood plot for everyone to enjoy at a later date, but until then, I am cursed to have to watch it. Yes, there's been some great performances in it, I'm not going to doubt that one, and even, well, let's call him Q. That's all anyone else ever calls him. The man who's been, well, making a lot of money at being somebody who's arrogant for a very long time manages to play, yes, somebody who's arrogant. Again, hooray. Hooray for typecasting. He does remarkably well. Oh yes, we've got new characters who are also traitors, except you're not quite sure who they're traitors to. You know that something's happening in Singapore. Or is it Shanghai? It's Shanghai, that's it. You see, I am doing this without notes this week because they are initial reactions, and that's fine as well. The whole of the action's going to have to move over there at some point, because that's where the apparent geography would be, I'm guessing. All of this, of course, is a guess. I'm not quite sure where it's going, because we have 2 more episodes. Now, is it going to be more consequences? Of course, more consequences thing builds up. Now, I'm getting an inkling of the existence of Category 0 being why Danes is so important. Because he is Category 0, and the whole world wants that. They will want him to be put down like a dog, which means everyone's going to be in favour of the existence of a Category 0. Is that what FICO were really on about? I'm not completely convinced. I'm not sure. One thing I'm sure about is that we're going to get a lot of ranting and shouting from that particular actor. Not particularly looking forward to that at all. And of course, Woman in a Red Dress. Yes, she's now had her promotion after the CIA managed to fill a whole 5 minutes of episode of Torchwood by trying to sneak somebody in. You know, the woman might as well have been wearing a Star Trek red shirt. Hi, I'm disposable character number 46. Hi, are you? That's brilliant. Man in a suit's probably going to shoot you later on. Yes, he is. That's one hell of a job interview. What, the fact that she didn't scream when someone got shot? Was that it? It is tough in the job market, isn't it? Oh, getting back to something I said earlier. Didn't Oprah stop making TV programmes? So does that mean that Torchwood Miracle Day itself happened, last May, when Oprah stopped being on TV? You don't need to know all about it. It's not important. What is important is that we've now got the Torchwood team split up again, which means they have to come back together again for the final episode. So next week's episode is probably Gwen trying to find Jack, or Jack trying to get better, or somebody doing some computer research. Oh, the excitement of research. Anyway, it's not next week's episode, it's tomorrow night's episode, because I'm watching them one at a time. Because this time, next week, I'll have watched all of them. Hooray! And I won't have to think about them again. So until then, be seeing you.
You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
This has been your comedy prom.
So I basically saw this concert as an opportunity to force incredible musicians to do what I wanted them to do. And this is probably the most self-indulgent of these forcings. Jules Buckley, he's my private conductor.